Well, it's a bad week for all the Mets hating crowd out there because the narrative for the last couple of weeks has been that the Mets have not played anyone yet this year and that they've gotten fat off playing the Marlins and the Nationals, and once they started playing good teams, they were going to be exposed as frauds. And what the Mets did this week was beat the Diamondbacks 2 out of 3 and beat the Cubs 2 out of 3 and completely just squash that narrative. So it's time for a new narrative on why the Mets aren't actually good, even though they're 11 games over 500 and in first place. What I want to do today is really get into the Cubs series, give my thoughts on how it went, give you the stars of the series, and also preview the upcoming series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. That starts tonight in Citi Field, and the Mets will be facing Paul Skenes. So, big series coming up here against another one of those lower level teams that people say that the Mets beat up on them and can't beat the good ones. But we have one of the lower level teams starting tonight. With that being said, before I jump into it, if you end up staying and liking this content, please subscribe, like the video, comment whatever you'd like. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. Throw me a like, comment whatever you'd like. And with that, we're going to jump right in here. So obviously, as I said before, the Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs over this last weekend. The Mets are now 26-15, and they have a game-and-a-half lead over the Phillies in the NL East. They're in first place. The Cubs now dropped to 23-18. They're still first in the NL Central. And it's been a really good start to this rough part of the schedule. I said last week the Mets were coming up to a very rough portion of their schedule where you had, the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, then you get a little break with the Pirates, and then you have the Yankees, there's the Red Sox, the Dodgers, all in a 3-week span. So very tough part of the series, the schedule coming up, and the Mets have done really well so far at the start of that. In this series, the Mets outscored the Cubs 18-10, and really this, to me, other than Game 2, which the Mets lost, and at some points of the game looked really lifeless offensively, and they weren't able to get the big hit with runners in scoring position, which has been an issue for them all year. They're one of the worst in I think they're 4th worst in Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position. So that's been a trouble spot for them, and they've relied on the home runs a little bit, or just 1 or 2 big hits a game rather than consistently getting those big hits. They just haven't been consistent with their offense, but you can see that the potential to do that is there. And you saw that in this series, especially in Game 3, where it was kind of a back and forth 2-2 game until late, and then you just saw the Mets offense kind of explode in one inning. And they're capable of doing that every inning, every day. They just haven't done it with any consistency. It's always an inning here, an inning there, a game here, a game there. It's just never, we haven't hit that consistency. You haven't gotten consistency out of Soto yet. Lindor has been pretty consistent throughout this whole season. Alonso was great early in the season. He's starting to taper off a little bit. I think in his last 20 games, he's down to like a 280 batting average. That's still good. I'll still take 280 from Pete Alonso. But over his last 20 games, he's got 3 home runs. And before, he was hitting like 380 or 370 before those 20 games. So he has dropped off a little bit, still performing well. But you just haven't, you've had guys go off here and there, but you haven't had a stretch of maybe 3 to 5 games where everybody seems to be hitting. And no matter what, they're going to score 6-7 runs a game, 5-6-7 runs a game, and not have these days where they kind of go silent. In the second game of the Cubs series, Brett Baty was their whole offense. He hit 2 home runs, had 5 RBIs. He was their whole offense in Game 2, which was great to see, by the way. I love seeing Brett Baty break out. Before he got sent to the minors, he was looking really good at the plate. Then I know he went to the minors and had that toe injury, and since he's been back, he's hit pretty well. Especially the last couple days, he's hit very well. But maybe he's figuring it out at the major league level. I don't know. I still don't buy in 100% to Baty yet. We've just seen so much of this before. Not necessarily at this level, but we know he has talent. We know he has a great swing. And I saw an interesting stat where if he has like the 6th best bat speed in Major League Baseball this year, behind like O'Neal Cruz and Pete Alonso and some really high-end guys, he's 6th. So I don't know. Maybe he is turning into something. But overall, you could see that the Mets were the better team in this series. the Cubs are not as good as the Mets, and no matter how much the national media or everyone wants to basically just, you know, they just love the Cubs to the point where it's nauseating. You watch on the national broadcast on Fox, and it was just everything was about Pete Crow Armstrong and the Cubs and whatever. The Mets are the better team. You could see it on the field. Yes, Pete Crow Armstrong's a very good player. Yes, Kyle Tucker's a very good player. The Mets are just better. The Mets are better than the Cubs. I don't think the Cubs are even much competition for the Mets. I think the only teams in the National League or in baseball that are really at the same level or maybe a little bit higher or around the same would be like the Dodgers and maybe the Padres. The Giants aren't a bad team, but there's not too many teams in the majors that are as good as the Mets. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I'm, feeling a little too good about them right now, but I don't know. I have no worry with the Mets. Even when they're down in a game, I just feel like they're going to come back. And in the 8th and 9th inning, where you get Lindor up at the plate or Alonso up at the plate, they always seem to come through and at least make it close or give you some excitement at the end of the game, even if they went to sleep for 7 innings. They still come out in the 8th and make it a game. So I never worry about the team being down. And their pitching. I mean, in this series alone, we heard so much talk about, the whole thing about the Mets haven't played anyone. A lot of that had to do with their pitching. Yes, Canning has been great, but, what about when he faces a good lineup? Or, Clay Holmes, can he really be a starter? He can't go deep into games. Well, in this series, I think we got some answers to that. Clay Holmes, 6 really strong innings, only gave up 1 run, and he looked like a really good starting pitcher. I know, listen, I think if you're maybe an older fan or even a fan of the same age as me, 6 innings for a pitcher doesn't seem like a lot, but in this day and age of baseball, if you're getting a starter going 6 innings and giving up 1 run, that's all you're asking for. That's about the best that you're asking a starting pitcher to do. So, yes, is there aces that go 7, 8, 9 innings and give up no runs? Sure. Zach Wheeler, guys like that, sure. But to have a really good 6 strong innings with 1 run given up, I couldn't ask for more than that. And then Griffin Canning was also really, really impressive. Another guy who went 6 innings, gave up 1 run. I mean, the only problem with Canning is he gave up a solo home run in that game. That's the only run he gave up. So Griffin Canning, who, once again, I've talked about so much, I never wanted with the Mets. I thought it was a big mistake to bring him here and give him a starting spot. But he's proven me and everyone else wrong. I'm sorry. If you thought Canning was going to be good, then you're Nostradamus. You should be paid by the Mets, to find players. Nobody knew Griffin Canning was going to be any good. Everyone hated the deal. Nobody wanted him. And look at what he's turned into so far this year. Now, he could turn back into Canning with the 5.5 ERA of last year. Sure, it could happen. But it doesn't seem like it. I think we're far enough into the season to kind of say, well, this guy's at least a pretty good starting pitcher for us this year. He's not an ace. He's not a number 1 guy. But, the guy's got an ERA in the low 2s. He's been great. So those were very important to see, the starting pitching. Now, we did see a fallback with McGill. McGill's kind of reverting back to being McGill. Don't love it. He was great in April. And then now May hits and he's just not the same guy. And this seems to be how it always goes for McGill. He has stretches where he looks great. Now, he's never looked great in any stretches he did in this season so far. But he always kind of reverts back to what he is. And that's unfortunate. But if he's your 5th starter, or maybe he goes into the bullpen when Montas and Minaya are ready to come back, then whatever. 5th starter, bullpen guy, swing guy, I'm fine with McGill. And maybe it's just a blip in the road. Maybe it's a couple bad starts, and he'll be fine going forward. So that was the starting pitching in this series. Really good outings from Canning and Clay Holmes. Not so much from McGill. And on the offensive side, let's just do kind of the stars of the series here. So Canning, to me, is the big star. You could put Canning or Holmes in that spot, starting pitching-wise, but I say Canning only because I personally was concerned about how he would do against a good lineup, and he was great. So I put Canning as one of the stars of the series. Obviously, 6 inning pitched, 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, and that was on a solo shot, and he had 6 strikeouts in that game. Lindor also had a really good series. He went 2 for 4 with a home run and an RBI in the first game, 1 for 4 with a walk in the second, so a quiet night for him, and then 3 for 5 with another home run and another RBI in Game 3. So for the series, he was 6 for 13, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and 3 runs. Really good series for Lindor. He's been so consistent, and he's just a guy you never worry about in late game clutch moments. There's a lot of really good clutch guys in New York right now. 2 of them really, and it's Brunson and Lindor. To me, those are the 2 most clutch guys around, and they both play in New York. So it's great to see Lindor really just be that great clutch player. And you knew he was going to hit a home run on Mother's Day. He's so much about his wife and kids, and I'm sure his own mother. I don't know. He doesn't really talk about his own mother very much, but I'm sure he's just a family man. He's a family guy, so it makes sense for him to hit a home run on Mother's Day. And you saw he showed a lot of emotion there too. I think that had to do with maybe Pete Crow Armstrong with his celebration after hitting the home run. I don't know if he normally does the thumbs up thing going around third base, but he did the thumbs up thing, and to me it seemed like he was talking about the Javi Baez thing because he was traded for Javi Baez. I don't know. I'm not sure. If you're a Cubs fan and you're watching this, let me know if he does that all the time. And the big star of this series, surprisingly so, was Brett Baty. Brett Baty was 4 for 8 in this series with 3 home runs and 6 RBIs, including a 2 home run game. So he only played in 2 of the 3 games, but he had a great series. And if Brett Baty is able to do this, and you can DH Vientos and put Baty at third base, and now Vientos is starting to hit too after being benched for a couple games. He had a home run yesterday. If those guys are going to continue to hit, then this offense could be something special. Not just good, but great. I don't know that Baty is going to continue this pace. Vientos, I'm kind of hot and cold with right now. He strikes out a lot. He swings at a lot of bad pitches, but he still has power. But he does have a lot of chase to him, and I don't love that. But maybe he'll make the adjustment. I feel like pitchers have been pitching him tougher because now they worry about him. Last year he had no worries. He was maybe the 5th or 6th option in the lineup, and now he's kind of one of the middle of the order guys. So if he can make that adjustment and Baty and Vientos start hitting, this is a really dangerous lineup. And it already is now, and with those 2 guys, it's even more so. So overall, I'm really happy with how this last series went. All right, now I want to get into the upcoming series against the Pirates. Starting tonight at Citi Field, the Mets will be facing Paul Skenes in that game, so you're getting a tough pitcher tonight. But overall, the Pirates are not a very good team. The Pirates are one of the worst teams in baseball. They actually fired their manager last week on the 8th, May 8th. They fired Derek Shelton. And then after that, they went and took 2 out of 3 from the Braves. So the thing that I worry about with a team like this, and especially one that just fired their manager, is sometimes it fires them up and it makes them better and it makes them scrappier. And that's kind of what I worry about with the Pirates or any team that just lost their manager or fired their manager. It almost brings them together and gives them a new purpose and maybe focuses them. Now, it doesn't always last really long, but listen, it was just last week. So, and even so, if you look at the scores in those Brave games, it wasn't like they were beating the Braves. The Braves weren't scoring. The games were like 3-2, 2-1. They were low-scoring games. So I don't know that it really makes a difference, but those are things you worry about when a team fires a manager if you're playing them. But so far this year, the Pirates are 14-27, last place in the NL Central. But like I said, they won their last series against the Braves, who, listen, the Braves have not had a good year, but the Braves are still a good team. They're a couple games under 500. I'm not counting them out. They're going to be fine. I don't know that they're going to come back and storm the division and win the division, but I don't put it past them either. I think once they get healthier and start playing better, they're going to be a problem. But maybe the Pirates just got them at the right time. But if you look at offensively, they've really struggled offensively this year. They have a 626 OPS, which is 29th in Major League Baseball, a 220 batting average, which is 27th in baseball, and they've only hit 28 home runs, and that's 29th. So really bad offensively. And you can see why. There's some names on this Pirates team. Obviously, O'Neal Cruz, he's probably their best hitter right now. He's only batting .238, but he's got an .830 OPS, 8 home runs, 18 RBIs, and he's got 16 stolen bases. Very dynamic player, hits the ball hard. He's a really good young player. I don't know that he's a superstar, but he's just a very good hard contact guy, and he can change the game. He can change the game with one swing, with a couple stolen bases. Like, he's a game-changing kind of guy. But he hasn't had his best year so far this year, other than the stolen bases. It hasn't been a great year, but it's been a very good year. And then you got a guy like Brian Reynolds, who a few years ago was thought of as maybe a perennial all-star kind of player, really good outfielder. They gave him an extension, and he just really hasn't lived up to it. The last couple of years have not been great for him. He's got a .210 batting average right now with 5 home runs, 19 RBIs, and a .607 OPS. So really below average season for him so far. I don't know. I don't see much there with the Pirates offense. And then you have Andrew McCutchen, who seems ageless at this point. He's actually having a pretty decent season. .252, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, 737 OPS. So he hasn't been terrible. But if you look up and down their lineup, they just don't have anything. They don't have any guys close to leading the league in anything except for stolen bases with O'Neal Cruz. They don't have, there's just not a ton of power, average, nothing. They have no offense. And that's why, like, a guy like Paul Skenes is a great pitcher, and he's got a 2.7 ERA, but he's like 3-4. So he's pitching well, but his team's not scoring for him, so he's not able to win games. So overall, if you score a few runs against this team, you're probably going to win the game. They just don't give you much offensively. And I don't see these being super high-scoring games. But you never know. Sometimes you come into a series like that, and it ends up being the complete opposite of what you thought. And I wouldn't put that past, the Mets for kind of doing that and giving up a bunch of runs to the Pirates. But we'll see what happens. I don't fear the Pirates' offense whatsoever, except for maybe O'Neal Cruz. All right, pitching-wise, the Pirates are slightly better. They're not as bad pitching-wise as they are offense-wise, but they had the 21st best ERA in the league at a 4.14, so not great as compared to the Mets, who I think are in the high twos, and I think they're still number one. Maybe they're number two behind the Padres now. They have 302 strikeouts, and that's 25th, so they're not a power pitching team other than Skenes. Skenes is a power pitcher. And they've given up a 241 batting average against, and that's 17th in the league. So really middle to low end pitching. So this is just a team that you have to beat up. They have no hitting, and they have okay pitching. They have a couple of pitchers who are good, and everyone else is kind of just whatever. And those pitchers, especially Paul Skenes, we've talked about him already. 2.77 ERA, 48 and 2/3 innings, 47 strikeouts, 34 hits, 12 walks. So really a guy who is a power pitcher. He throws 100 miles an hour, 100 plus miles an hour. One of the best young pitchers in baseball, and it's clear at this point that he's not very long for Pittsburgh. As soon as he's able to get out of there, he probably will. Doesn't seem like he's having a very good time there. He kind of talks the talk and makes it seem like he wants to be part of that organization, but I don't know. It's going to wear on him, and it's tough. It's a tough place because they don't spend any money. They spend no money there, and they're not interested, it seems like, in winning. It's almost like they said, we can't compete with the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees in terms of money, so we're just not going to try. And that's a tough thing because Pittsburgh's a really good baseball city. It's just a really good sports city in general, and just a nice city. So I don't know how you don't go for it. There's a lot of talk about the fans not being happy, wanting the owners to sell the team. Seems like maybe a Will Pond type of situation there where the owner is just not very well liked. I don't know a lot about it, but I've just seen some things. But yeah, Paul Skenes is probably not very long for Pittsburgh. Don't see him there long term. And you also have Andrew Heaney. He's got a 3.15 ERA in 45 and 2/3 innings, 36 strikeouts, 16 walks, 35 hits. So he's been really good too. The Mets don't see him in this series. I don't believe. They do see Skenes, but not Heaney. And Dennis Santana is their best reliever. He's got 17 1/3 innings pitched, a 2.08 ERA, and .87 whip, and he's 4 for 4 in save opportunities. I know Bednar was the closer to start the year. I think he lost that job to Santana, and Santana has kind of done a really good job in that spot. So really not much there. This is a really good opportunity for the Mets here to take advantage of a team who's obviously not very good. I think you have the White Sox and Rockies are the example of the 2 worst teams, right? Then this is that next level. Still could lose 100 games, maybe not historically bad, but still a really bad Pittsburgh Pirates team. It's just not what you want to see necessarily from a great sports city, but you got to take care of business if you're the Mets. You just got through a little bit of a tough 6 games in your schedule, and you're about to go into another 9 really tough games. So this is important. A bare minimum, you have to take 2 out of 3. I would rather see a sweep, but 2 out of 3 at a bare minimum here. So overall in this tough stretch of schedule here, they've done well. 2 out of 3 against Arizona, 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. Now you get this little respite here against the Pirates because you should beat the Pirates. The Pirates should not be an issue for this team. If you score 3 runs, you're probably going to beat them. They just don't have any offense. It's that simple. Score a few runs. Yes, Paul Skenes is tough, but if you get 2 runs against Skenes, you might still win the game. If you get 1 run off Skenes, you might win the game. They just don't have much offensively on the Pirates. So you just got to go out there and get a run or 2, and you have a chance to win the game. Then you have the Yankees. That series is going to go absolutely crazy. Obviously, you know that Soto is going to get booed mercilessly in the Bronx. I would love to see him have a really good series here against the Pirates, just so that he can be hot going into that series. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. I don't care what he does in that series, or I just care about them winning. And I don't even care that it's the Yankees. I just care that it's a good team. But that's going to be a crazy series in the Bronx. Then you have the Red Sox after that, who have been kind of up and down this year, around 500. They've hovered within a few games of 500 all year so far. Bregman has been very hot. Devers is starting to get hot. So they're a good team, a team that you have to contend with. And I believe that one's in Boston. That's like their only road series in this. And then they have the Dodgers. And that's going to be the real test to me. Coming up at the end of this month, facing the Dodgers, it's going to be one of those series that is a defining series. You're going to find out if you're able to play, or if you're able to say you're at the same level as them. Or maybe you could say you're better than them. Who knows? But right now, to me, it's like kind of the Dodgers and then everyone else. The Dodgers are alone by themselves at the top, and then everyone else is kind of competing for that second place spot. So if you can go and beat the Dodgers towards the end of this month, you can really say to yourself, like, hey, we might be the second best team in baseball. Or maybe you look really good against the Dodgers and you say, I think we're the best team in baseball. I think the Mets think they're the best team in baseball. I don't think anyone else does. I personally don't. I still think the Dodgers are better. But I think they can be beaten. And one of the teams that can beat them is the Mets. So real tough schedule still coming up after this Pirates series. We'll see how that all goes. I expect the Mets to do well only because they always seem to play up to their competition, and then they always seem to play down to their competition. They don't always just play like themselves. They're kind of playing up or playing down to whoever they're playing. So we'll see what happens, but I like their chances a lot, especially in the next few series. And then the Dodgers is really where you're gonna see what kind of team they are. So yeah, that's really all I got today. If you're still here and you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. And until next time, let's go Mets.